Hi, and welcome to the latest QuickFire video interview brought to you by the information portals vanillaplus.com and IoT-Now.com. My name's Jeremy Cowan. I'm co-founder of both websites. Now, ahead of our June the 1st webinar, which is on how IoT and Edge can directly impact customer experience revenues, I wanted to find out more about how customer value is being enriched by hyper-personalisation. Service providers can now access historical customer views and usage patterns, as well as relevant real-time and omni-channel engagement data. This allows companies to use data in the moment to create really extraordinary and, of course, highly profitable customer experiences. To find out more, we are lucky to be joined by Dublin-based David Rolfe, who is Senior Director of Product Marketing at Volt Active Data. David, welcome.
Great to be here.
For anyone not already familiar with the concept, David, how do you define hyper-personalisation?
Hyper-personalisation is the logical end result of the concept of brands and marketing. Brands and marketing came in the 19th century when it was possible to distribute stuff over a wide range. So then you got the idea of a product you can sell. And initially, they just wanted to sell it to everybody. And over time, it's got more and more precise. And the groups of demographics you're trying to sell products to have got more and more closely defined. And now with hyper-personalisation, you're also seeing changes in time and space. So traditionally, you'd stick an advert up and hope that it appeals to whatever quadrant you're going for. Now you're seeing situations where it can be time-based, where it can be location-based, and so on. And hyper-personalisation covers a much broader range about human activity than we'd realize. We tend to think about people sending us coupons and things like that. But every time you play a video game, you are having a hyper-personalised experience. And every time you read a modern newspaper, you are having a hyper-personalised experience. The only real question about that is how modern and up to speed it is, because there's a massive range and so we're in a world where our lives are more hyper-personalized than we realize, and there's a massive range in competence, quality, and effectiveness and ability to execute in organizations.
Volt Active Data has a number of customers who are using your data platform for this kind of hyper-personalization. So what developments are you seeing now in the market?
I think what we're seeing is, as I just mentioned, there's a massive range in capability out there. So for example, you have the video games industry where when you play any kind of game, especially an online game, you are streaming and generating hundreds of events every minute. Every time you hit something with your sword, you generate an event. And so one of the classic early use cases of gathering all this data was to give it to the product managers and the game designers to figure out what the next level should look like. But now we're changing the level as you play it, and the game is dynamically adjusting to your level of competence as you go along. This is not obvious. This is why this is to make the game stickier and more appealing. So the video games industry is probably ahead of everybody else in terms of hyper-personalization. It's just that you don't know it because it's done so well. And the distinction they have is between long-term data, which affects level design and future development, and events happening right now, literally while you are swinging the sword, is now a good time to try and sell him a dragon slaying shield, or whatever it is they're selling you. But the technical side of this is that these two streams of data move at very different speeds. And you've got data scientists and machine learning people and doing all this clever algorithmic work in the background with yesterday's data, but you've also got a completely separate challenge of, I've got a guy out there now playing, I don't want to lose it. And so we would see a big range. On the other end of the spectrum, you would have people running newspapers who are looking at human interaction speeds and who are trying to figure out how to upsell them products. So we have one major newspaper as a product. As a customer, I'm not going to name it out of professional courtesy. You can figure it out if you really look. And they have this, they want to upsell people niche products, market-specific products. And their goal, it revolves around that they built a large system to do this. And the problem was it was always in the past tense. And so they moved to us because they got everything to work, but not fast enough. And one of the phenomena you see now is that people will go into a hyperscaler, they'll glue all this stuff together, they'll get all this plumbing working, and it'll be great, but it'll be late. And it's it's like one of those sitcoms where at the very last frame, just after the credits, somebody bursts in and says, aha, I have an idea. And this is what was happening to these guys. And so it's not enough to come up with the right answer. You have to have at the right time and while the context is still hot. And this is where the industry is going. And this is where a lot of our customers are waking up to the fact that the windows for action are very different. So another customer we have, they figured out that the best time to sell people data packages for mobile phones, for a prepaid phone, is just after you finish your call, because people will habitually look at their phone before they put it away. That is the time to get an advert onto the screen. And that is a window of about 50 milliseconds. Now, I work in the phone industry where 50 milliseconds is an extremely long time, trust me. For most humans, that's the minimum reaction time. You need that, you can get into the Air Force with that. But for a lot of people in the marketing space and the personalization space, 50 milliseconds is science fiction stuff. They want you to put on red shirts, go down to the planet and get killed. This is like completely off the wall. But that's where we're going.
I'm going to take away from this conversation a number of things, but great but late is one of the phrases. I love that. So where do you see hyper-personalization going next?
Well, traditionally, the only, for a lot of products, the only channel initially was billboard advertising. And then over time, we've now seen, mailers going out in the mail, adverts in specific newspapers. Thanks to the internet, we can figure out demographics and figure out what kind of banner ad to show you if you still look at banner ads. Companies like Facebook have cornered the market in finding ever more terrifyingly precise demographics. Gay chess playing bikers or whatever it is this week. And that only gets you so far, because then you want to get down to that person's individual experience. What should I sell to that person and when? And that's not even just about timeliness. It becomes transactional, because there's no point in me offering you a free pizza if you've just accepted the last offer 2 minutes ago. Because then you might offer, buy 3 more and give it to your friends. There was a thing going in Dublin here for a while where one of these taxi apps was giving away free rides to people who signed up. And I found out that my son was getting home from school with 3 of his friends in a taxi because they make a new account every day. And so they were. This is like very cute. But the point is, you're assuming that people go into these things assuming that they're dealing with rational, reasonable actors, and people will game the system. And you have to understand that everything you do, there's a counter move, and potentially a malign counter move. So it's not just a question of, we're going to see expansion into different platforms, and ultimately out to the edge in IoT, which is where it's going, and what I think this presentation is about.
That was my next question. I wanted to know, I heard you indicate already that you see a role for the Internet of Things in hyper-personalisation. Can you explain that a bit?
I checked the router in my house about 20 minutes ago. I've got at least 34 devices online. Now, I've got 3 kids, wife, dog. I don't think the dog has internet yet, but I don't know. The cat had an IP address for a while. We had a device on the cat, but we got rid of it. I've got a bathroom floor that has Wi-Fi and is presumably sending details of the temperature of my bathroom floor back to Beijing.
Heavens.
These things are everywhere. This is going to leak out. At one level, the idea that the devices you use on the IoT things, and by IoT, I mean everything. I mean your printer, I mean your fridge, all this stuff. My car, I have an electric car that is communicating. That's spending 400 megabytes of data a night back to the mothership. All of these things are going to start being used in some way or another to persuade you to buy more stuff or optimize your experience or whatever hellish metaphor they're using this week. And that's going to lead to some Black Mirror moments. It's going to lead to public pushback. The public will get fed up with it. But both you and I are of the generation where we're saying, oh my God, why would I give this data to anybody? And I look at the people who are in their 20s and teens. They're far more casual about this stuff. And if giving away data means they've got a better personal experience, they're willing to do it. So we're going to end up with lots of device and event-driven messages. I hope it doesn't get to the point I hope it doesn't get to the point where your fridge has a conversation with the scales and starts trying to sell you diet products. But we're not that. There's a whole area opening up here. But to make that work, you need to be able to handle massive scale. You need single, coherent 360 view of the customer systems that can support that. You can't have 53 things in different hyperscalers plodding at their own speeds and gluing and coming up with facts that are fast but late. And you have to manage it. You have to have a coherent picture and know what you want to do and be able to execute on it professionally, efficiently, and ethically.
Okay. Well, normally, David, this is when I would say I wish we had more time, but we are going to have more time to drill into this in the webinar on June the 1st.
Yep.
So in the meantime, my thanks to you, David. It's been great to have you here for Vault Active Data.
I look forward to the webinar. Thank you.
And ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to register for our free webinar on June the 1st to learn much more about this and to continue to be entertained as I have been today by David. Thank you for joining us today around the world. Till the next video, bye for now.